the reason why we talk about on the federal level, on the common law level, is because it overrides the statutory level. Like, it doesn't matter about the statutory anymore because our trusts operate on a federal. So how it would work is, let's say, for example, you make 100K, and like I said, this is the business trust, this is the family trust, and this is the ministry trust. How it would work is this 100K from your businesses down here would go straight to the business trust. Now, of course, it would stop at the parent at the same time, right? A parent, it has to go through the hoops. So it has to go through the parent, to go to the whole code, to go to the family, to go to the ministry. That's just hierarchy 101. Okay. So what would happen is you would pay management fees to the parent company, and then you have taxes, of course, right? So 100K obviously would have to pay taxes. But the greatest part about trusts is that they have something called one, you pay internally between 10 and 37% in taxes when it comes to trusts. But the greatest part is that you have something called 100% distribution, which means that you can distribute 100% of the income that you just received. So instead of you paying 37K of taxes, right, you can distribute this to the business trust. By the time it gets to the business trust has 100% distribution. So that means instead of you paying 37,000 in taxes, you can distribute it to the family trust. Okay. So let me rephrase so that this can make more sense, because I feel like I confused the whole everyone. I know I did. So how it works is there's something called limited liability is in the name. Okay. It's limited. So when it comes to a LLC, this may help you all understand. There's one half of an LLC. You have the individual, and then you have the authorized signature, manager, member manager, however many versions of there is. Okay. So what that means is the LLC it can only protect you about 50%. That's why it's called limited. Okay. So the authorized user, if you were to get sued, can only protect you 50%, which means that if you go to court and get sued, the judge can do something called piercing the corporate veil, which means that they can pass this 50% and go to the other 50%, which is you as an individual, right? And so you as an individual have, obviously, as a personal person, would have something called personal assets, which is where garnishments comes in, or child support, or whatever else that comes in that wave. Taxes, of course, will also be in that section. But because if they decide to do an LLC, you decide to do a business trust, which you did, instead of there being an individual, there is a business trust as the other 50%. Okay. So they would have to pass through the LLC to get to the business trust. Same with taxes. Okay. So when you're going through, when you have 100K, it only goes through. This is why they say you have something called self-employment tax, and you have something called, I believe it's capital gains tax. Not capital gains tax. What's the other tax that comes with LLCs, y'all? Help me out here. What's the other one? I can't even remember off the top of my head. But there's two types of taxes. I can't remember the other tax right now. Don't judge me. There's two types of taxes that come with LLC. I need to know. Hold on. It's a corporation, so you get taxed. Corporation tax, corporate tax, duh. Okay, so you have corporate tax, self-employment tax, okay? Self-employment tax can go away by you having something called an S or C corp, which is why we say the parent company has to be an S or C corp, right? So for here, you're paying corporate tax. By the time it comes here, maybe in the middle, you now have the parent company, which you now no longer have to pay self-employment tax. So really the corporate tax moves to the business trust. But the business trust has something called 100% distribution, which means that you don't have to pay the 37,000 that we mentioned before that's internally within this business trust. You can forward this up to the family trust, and the family trust has something called expenditures, which also has 100% distribution. So you can take expenditures and you can do 100% distribution. So what that means is this 100,000, if you pay, let's say $5,000 a month, which is 60K a year, and that's all your expenses, then 100K minus 60K is $40,000 that's left, which means now this, of course, also has 37%. Each one of these have 37%, by the way. which means 30% of 40,000 is 14.8K. But we have 100% distribution, which means that we don't have to pay the 37% at all, which is the 14,000. What we can do is we can do 100% of the 40K and donate it to the ministry trust. And you don't get taxed on donations and you don't get taxed on loans. So now we really don't pay anything in taxes because we have now shifted from the business level to the management level, to the hold co level, to the expenditures level, to the donation level. Did that make sense, Nastasia? I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
It does. So all you're doing is moving the money up all the way until it gets to the ministry trust. And then you're donating. After, when it gets to the family trust, you have to donate to a nonprofit. Like ministry trust is a nonprofit technically. So you can't it's just nonprofit. So you have to donate it as a gift. So you're going to gift it to the ministry trust. And this is the greatest part, because in your ministry trust, you will have something called a family foundation. And your family foundation, the greatest part about a foundation is it can act as another form as a family bank. So if you have 40K that we donated to the ministry trust, we can borrow against that and use it for any other business at the bottom again.